Good evening and welcome to good evening everyone out there. And welcome to the August 8th, 2017 regular school board meeting of the Roswell Independent School District. We will now have opening exercises. May I have roll call, Ms. Kane?
Mr. Edwards? Mr. Getty?
Yep.
Ms. Kirk?
Here.
Mr. Sanchez?
Yes.
We'll now have the Pledge of Allegiance led by the board members.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I salute
The flag of the state of New Mexico is the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Thank you. Whoops. Let's stay standing. Okay, now we'll have a moment of appreciation. Mr. Tackett.
To begin a school year, everyone's filled with a lot of nervousness and anxiety, and students are filled with reluctance. Teachers are filled with reluctance, and we have this intense appreciation of the job before us to help educate these students that come to our classroom. And those of us at central office have this strong desire to provide our teachers and principals with all the resources and the materials and things that they need to do an outstanding job with the students that come to those classrooms. And every year we show appreciation for our teachers, our principals, our administrators, our school board members. But tonight I want you to think of some of those that do the work in the background that we seldom hear about, we don't see, we don't read about. People like our custodians, our secretaries, our librarians, our nurses, people like the folks who work in the maintenance department that help keep all of these things up. And if I may add, even when we have some very minor water leaks in some of our buildings that we have. But there is a strong sense of appreciation for those folks. The cafeteria folks and the nutrition department. These people really make what we do much easier. And they do their work so many times behind the scenes, and oftentimes they don't get the recognition that they truly deserve. And another special group that I encourage each of you to think about on a daily basis, that's our soldiers, our men and women both overseas and here at home that provide us the freedom that we sometimes take for granted to work, to choose, to go to school, to provide these services. They place their life on the line. They make the ultimate sacrifice that we can enjoy this freedom. So join me at this time in a moment of silent appreciation for all of these, the unsung heroes, especially of our profession and education. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tackett. Okay, moving on. I would like to adopt the agenda with flexibility. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Sanchez and second by Mr. Getty.
That works. Or vice versa.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
You're still breathing hard.
I know. I ran, I tell you. I wasn't even upstairs. Oh, here's a pen, yeah. Okay, so do we want to reverse that? Getty? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, with having said that, I would like to move agenda items number 4, 5, and 6, the discussion of, the GHS band trip, the GHS choir trip, and RHS senior class trip. So, we'll start with the GHS band trip. Ms. Sanchez.
Mr. Everett?
Good evening and thank you. I'm here before you to request permission to take the Goddard High School Band to Corpus Christi, Texas in May of this year. We will be performing on the deck of the USS Lexington, which is a retired naval vessel of some renown in our country's history. And it would be a great opportunity for the students to go celebrate that history and also be fine ambassadors for ISD in Roswell and New Mexico.
And that would be in 2018, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any discussion?
Mode of transportation to get there?
Bus, as many as it takes.
Road trip.
Yeah, it'll be by bus. It's we went several years ago. It's quite lengthy, but it's worth it.
Make some memories.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
I recommend approval of the Goddard High School band trip request to Corpus Christi, Texas to perform at the historic USS Lexington, May 2nd through 6th, 2018.
Any discussion, board members? May I have a motion to approve the GHS band trip?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Sanchez and second by Mr. Getty. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Great. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Edwards. Welcome. Unlike you, we just got this board meeting started. Okay, RHS choir trip.
Request. Mr. Hunley.
Mr. Hunley.
Come up. Thank you.
Ms. Sanchez, members of the board, I'd like to ask permission to take the Roswell High Choirs to Orlando. Yes, it's a trip for fun, but also educational. They'll get to go through some workshops, which are going to be really good, taught by professionals, top-notch people there at Disney World who know what they're doing and can really teach our students a lot. They'll also get to see some performances by others, which I think is always valuable. The exact dates, as far as when we're leaving and getting back, is a question. It's going to depend on the best pricing for the flights, but it'll be during spring break, so they won't miss any school.
Oh, okay.
That April 2nd. Okay, perfect. I recommend approval of the Roswell High choir trip request to travel to Orlando, Florida, April 2nd through 6th, 2018, for a choral clinic and performance.
May I have, or is there any discussion? Okay, may I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, the motion's been made by Mr. Sanchez and second by Mr. Getty. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Motion
Thank you.
carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the RHS senior class trip request. Laura Lucero.
Mrs. Lucero Creo, you'll come on up. Some students.
Not as tall as they
Yeah,
are.
bring
That's
it down.
okay.
Good evening, Superintendent Sanchez and members of the board. We're here to ask permission for Mrs. Madrid and I to sponsor a trip for the senior class of 2018. And with your permission, I'm going to let the senior class president, Joel Ramos, address you with the trip.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Joel Ramos. I'm the senior class president of Roswell High for the year 2017-2018. And I'd like to ask for your approval to let the senior class go on a senior class trip to California. And I feel like this will work as motivation for them to work towards the end of the year to actually graduate so that they can have something to look forward to at the end. This trip wouldn't interfere with school because it'll be May 29th through June 5th. So, and they'll be visiting different places in California and lots of breakfast, dinner, air travel days, hotel, and there will be overnight security. So we'll get a lot out of it for a great, valuable price.
And just to be clear, the departure date would be somewhere between May 29th and June 5th. They won't let us know for certain until 90 days prior to the trip.
Oh, okay, so the departure is between those dates?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long will you be gone?
It would be, we're hoping for the eight-day trip.
8-day trip.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any discussion? Besides
You've got
questions I
about
asked?
29 verbally committed students on that?
Yes, sir, we do, and we're hoping to get 6 more so we can lock in the lowest price.
Okay. All right, so if you get 35, then you get a better rate?
Yes,
a better
sir.
deal? Okay.
And if we do get 30, excuse me, if we do get 30, then we will add another sponsor.
Okay.
For every 10, they let us have 1 sponsor.
One sponsor.
Okay, and that drops the rate per student
Yes,
as far
sir,
as
it
the
does.
cost is concerned? Okay. You think that's something that'll be achievable by your guys?
I believe it will. I've got some motivated kids. Honestly, this class, I've been teaching for 16 years, and this class is one of the most dedicated and motivated classes I've ever seen.
Cool. All right.
No, that's
Thank you.
nice to hear.
Well, I'm hoping you get the 35.
Thank you. I hope so too. You want to come?
That's what it sounded like a fishing trip, didn't it?
I don't know how much time I have for, selling stuff, but hey, if you got any extra cash, I'll volunteer. Need a chaperone, I'm there.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Somebody needs to go chaperone you. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I've
Oh,
made
I'm
the
sorry.
recommendation. Any more
Okay,
questions,
go ahead.
discussion? Okay.
More discussion.
I recommend approval of the Roswell High School senior class trip request departing between May 29th and June 5th for 8 days to California.
And no discussion, we've had discussion, so I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr.
Second.
Sanchez and second by Mr.
Hey, I saw the
Getty.
hard questions, I gotta.
You gotta do that. Yeah, you asked those.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Enjoy
Thank
your
you.
trip.
Yes, enjoy.
Yeah, fun trip.
Okay, now we'll move back to our regular
We're going back.
agenda. Inquiries and general comments. Ms. Kane, has anyone signed up? Okay. That said, y'all's speech. Okay, now we'll move on to reports. Superintendent Santos?
Madam Vice President, members of the board, I would like to update you on a few events that have happened since our last board meeting. I want to start out with introducing some of our new administrators. So at this time, Mireya Trujillo is our Director of Human Resources.
Yay, congratulations.
We have Ms. Andrea Nieto Walker, who is our Director of Bilingual and ESL Services. I introduced Kathleen Galloway, but she was in Alaska, but she's here with us tonight, so thank you. The principal at East Grand Plains. Susie Coggins, principal at Del Norte. Dolores Ingram, principal at Nancy Lopez. Christy Barbie, principal of Sunset. Shannon Hart, assistant principal at Barindo Middle School, and she's at the open house, but we'll give her a big round of applause. Art Sandoval, assistant principal at Mesa. We have some new TOSAs with us this evening. We have Jamie Henderson, TOSA at Monterey. We have Debbie Norris, TOSA at Goddard High School. And we have some people that weren't here again, probably open houses. Laura Rivera, TOSA at Military Heights. And Dana Russ, TOSA at Sierra Middle School. Welcome all administrators and instructional leaders.
Yes, welcome, congratulations. Some familiar faces back again.
I want to just highlight briefly some of the administrative training that we got kicked off this week. Our administrative training went very well with our administrators. We provided many professional development opportunities to be able to give them the tools, the resources that they will be needing to move their schools forward, and some support as we start receiving the data. Our virtual back to school was a hit. I want to thank again the technology and all of the support staff that made this happen. We received tremendous positive feedback on our virtual back to school. I think the majority of the highlights that came out of that was thank you for valuing our time and being able to work at our schools and still be able to be welcomed by all of the administrators and inspiring them as far as what our goals and outlining objectives for this year. And then one of the other big comments that came across all of the questions was being able to receive their years of service pins at that day with their staff. And so those are some of the highlights. We had a great turnout, and it was just amazing. And thank you, board members, for being there and addressing the staff. It was a great opportunity also, and I think as we continue to move forward with these new innovative ways to reach our staff, I think we will continue to move forward in that direction. In addition to that, Monday we came in at 6 o'clock. The custodians were at University High School, and we walked into a water main break, and I want to be able to have two individuals talk about our plan. So really what we're going to talk about today is that University High School will not be able to start school on August 10th when the rest of us do. However, the team has done an amazing job, and we will be able to start school on Monday, August the 14th. And with that, I'll have Mr. Chad Cole and Sean Benedict talk about the project on where we are going, and what our next steps are as soon as we get the restoration report.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Sanchez. So, Ms. Sanchez, Vice President Kirk, members of the board, again, to reiterate, we had a water leak over the weekend. We're not sure exactly when. This water leak was a line that passed through the ceiling panels of the men's and women's restroom directly behind or catty corner to the administrative offices. So we're not sure how long it had to run. But we did come in and find several inches of water in the floor. All those furnishings, of course, got wet in those areas of the building. Where we were fortunate with University High School and its layout is it essentially has two wings.
Do you have the maps?
I do. Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
Let's give them the map so
Sure.
they can see the section we're talking about.
I took a tour this morning. Actually, I went out there to view what you're talking about, Mr. Cole, and oh my goodness.
Pretty amazing. The nice thing
Pretty sad.
Yeah. The nice thing about University High School is it has the two wings. So the map that you have there in front of you has a highlighted using orange highlighter. That is the section of the building where the water infiltrated into those classrooms. That was what they found 6 a.m. that morning. The custodian, when we started arriving around 6:30, of course, Mr. Benedict, our coordinator of maintenance, was there. I just want to tell you what I saw. I saw several teams of maintenance, all hands on deck, out there getting that water up off our floors, getting those furnishings up off our floors, moving with a purpose, moving with motivation. It was a team effort, and I'd just like to congratulate our maintenance group on working that way, setting the tone, setting the example. This is never what you want to walk into, particularly the week before school starts. But when it comes to water damage, the key is speed. The speed with which you can get it up off of things and out of the building and dry that out. So I'd also like to give a special mention to our contract vendor who does all of our remediation and restoration work in these types of examples. He came down from Albuquerque and had his teams down here by noon that same day on Monday. They worked all through the night, 2 different shifts, pulling drywall, putting moisture sensors in the walls to track the moisture, pulling that drywall off where there was moisture so it can dry out. You need 72 hours or 3 days to dry that out to get an idea of what you've got. So they've worked hard on that diligently and are still working on it today. And they will restore our building as well. Also, we have contacted our insurance company to report the claim, so that's processing as well.
I'll just add there, members of the board, I emailed you the document to Deputy Paul Aguilar to let him know of the change of the schedule, so we get that PED approval for those 2 days. We also met with Mr. Cottrell and worked out a communication plan, and so all our parents will be receiving robocalls in English and Spanish to let them know and apprise them of the date change, and also the staff to let them know they will report as usual. They will be working on setting up their classrooms these next 3 days. We've also, our technology department, Mr. Yates and Mr. Royce Braggs has put those on the UHS website and also on our district website. So I believe we've covered all angles as far as communication. I know that Mr. Tweed has notified the radio stations. I'll be visiting with Mike Winters on the radio show in the morning to talk about the board meeting, and so I will again reiterate that. So I think we've reached out to all of our stakeholders. We've talked to Mr. Graham about not feeding our kids there, but he will feed the kids at Early College High School in Sydney. And also, Mr. Tweed's taking care of the bus contractors to let them know that they won't be running on those 2 days.
And I would just add to that that Early College High School is not affected. Transportation routes are not affected other than Thursday and Friday. They have been canceled for University High School only.
We'll stand for any questions.
So one thing is, you know, just a question on the layout of the school and when it comes to drainage, did we have any type of drainage in the school that would circumvent this from happening again? The reason I'm asking too is most of the time when you have bathrooms, you know, most of the time you're going to have a drain there because it's a wet area. So if this does happen, we didn't expect it to happen on the roof, of course, but did that bathroom have one? And
no, sir.
It did?
No, it did
no,
not.
It did not?
No.
Okay. Should we maybe think, and I don't want to prolong any schooling, but maybe for future incidences, maybe now looking to see if there is any type of drainage system we can put in that school. So if this happens, you know, we don't take out an entire wing.
I'll check on that and we'll get back with you. What I'd be concerned about are PSCOC and PSFA specifications when we were, so we did that particular building was renovated back in 2004 with PSFA. I don't think there are any issues with that, and it makes perfect sense to me on the surface, but I will find out.
Okay.
Yes,
And that was the staff restroom, correct? It wasn't used by students.
I think it was open to both students and staff.
It was a student
Yes.
restroom.
Oh, was it?
Common area restroom.
Yes, as I can
Men and
recall.
women.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have worked collaboratively with Mr. Cottrell on the plan and on the classrooms that you have up there as well. We're going to be using all from 309, 307, 303, 302, and 301, the weight room and the gym. And then as you come across down to the green section, this is where currently our alt site is located in classroom 118. And then we're going to be using classroom 116 to teach English. So that's what that's going to mean for our kids, is they're going to come out of that far northwest wing, come outside and trot across that little corridor to come in and to be able to get to their English class. So we've talked to Principal Cottrell about ensuring that we have security and safety and being able to escort the kids. The bathrooms that we're going to be using mainly are on the on that northwest wing for our kids and our staff. So they will not have to leave the premises or anything like that.
Just to illustrate the location of the leak on your map there, if you find the pink star, the pink highlighted star, that's where the leak was, in the ceiling.
And what was so sad is the building looked like it was ready for occupancy. It looked like
The floors were
maintenance had been, glass, clear. Looked like it was totally ready. And to have this happen just days before was heartbreaking. So again, where will our pregnant moms and our babies be housed?
Our nursery is going to be housed
303.
303?
303.
So
And where it
room-
says nursing right now?
Room 303 was a nursing classroom that hasn't been utilized
I see.
and would not be until later on in the semester. So it has a sink, it has bathroom facilities, it has a tub.
Okay.
All those things which are required in statute for that type of
For the grads program.
facility.
And that's why we had to pick that room. We wanted to use it for another one, but that was the only room on that side that had the facilities of the sink and the restroom to be able to meet the requirements of the nursery. We will need to purchase some carpets for the little toddlers to crawl on the floor with, but we'll have to get some carpets.
Okay. Timeline, as far as completion and occupancy, do we have?
We don't. So again, that first 3 days kind of gives us an idea of where we're at, and we're just getting close to that, knowing that. I suspect that by Monday, we'll have a firm timeline for the restoration piece to restore the facility to its original condition.
So Mr. Cerner, with the restoration, did tell us on Monday he would have a project timeline that we'd be looking for as far as the assessment of how long it's going to be to fix this.
And I know when I talked to him today, he said ordering carpet, he said that alone is going to take at least 2 weeks to order, get it here, and then installation. So that's minimal compared to everything,
Yes,
all
ma'am.
the damage. Thank you, Ms. Sanchez. Thank you, Mr. Cole.
Yes, ma'am. May I answer any other questions about the school? Could I throw out there that we sold bonds this morning? Because we're pretty pumped about it. It's
Yeah.
pretty exciting. As you know, we talked about last board meeting, you gave us
You did.
authorization through resolution to sell these bonds. We did sell those bonds in a competitive bid format this morning at 10 a.m. We had 7 bidders for our bonds, which is tremendous. Looking at years past, you typically see 2, 3 bidders for that kind of a block of bonds, 10 million or so in bonds. So to have 7 show up and be competing for your bonds is huge. So that was really exciting. Also, I'll just reiterate that 3.73 million Series 2017 A bonds, that's new money. That leaves 4.27 million to be sold next year, the remainder of our authorization from the taxpayers. 5.67 million Series 2017 B, those are those refunding of callable bonds. So if you recall, those 2009 bonds became callable this year, and so we could restructure the financing piece on those and try and save money. What we were shooting for at the time, the last time we spoke, was something around the order of 2% interest or lower. So we outdid that pretty well here. Combined for both series A and B, the true interest cost was 1.93%. Wow. That's excellent. Looking just at the refunding series bonds, 1.31%. Oh, wow. So I think we had said we had hoped to save our taxpayers approximately $200,000. In real dollars, we are saving them $203,793. In present value terms, that's a savings of $242,630 by restructuring those bonds. Those bonds are scheduled to close on September 12th. Cool.
Thank you, Mr. Cole.
Yes, thank you.
Mr.
Good
Tweed,
work.
anything on RFPs and bids? Mr. Cole?
Vice President Austin, Superintendent Sanchez, members of the board. We did have 2 slight changes from last year. We did a request for proposal for an athletic trainer. We didn't have any proposals submitted, so we did cancel that proposal. And we've also added a request for proposal for the Roswell High School Athletic Fields Complex, which will be closing on August 25th.
So, Mr. Tweet, what do we do with that's a vacant position, so how are we going to structure that to ensure our kids' safety?
For the athletic trainer position, I haven't really had the opportunity to follow up with Mr. Luck on how we're going to proceed with that. We had the same issue last year, and I'm not sure exactly how they safeguarded against it, but pretty sure they followed the same protocol. And I believe we still have that vacancy posted and are hopeful for positions.
Yes.
I know, they're difficult to find, but this year I have a huge concern.
Thank you, Mr. Tree. Mr. Benedict, the 2016-17 monthly maintenance progress charts?
Madam Vice President, Superintendent Sanchez, members of the board, I don't have a specific presentation for you tonight other than just the spreadsheet, so I'm available for any questions you have. Otherwise, I don't really have a presentation. So.
Superintendent, board members, this report is one that you see on a monthly basis from our maintenance department. Of course, Mr. Benedict is here to answer any questions you might have about the report.
Amazing. Good work.
Thank you.
I like the report.
Thank you.
We're going to go in and move to Human Resources. Mr. Byrd, the personnel report.
Madam Vice President Kurt, Superintendent Sanchez, members of the board, in your packet, you'll have this month's personnel report with certified and non-certified, either new hires, resignations, or retirements, or the transfers that are made within the district, one person going from one position to the other. There is one correction that I need to make on the first page. In that second blue column where it says new hires, it should say resignations. I apologize for the oversight there, but it goes new hires, new hires. The second column down, that second grouping is resignations.
Okay. That was too difficult to read.
Yeah, can I ask a question about that? Just, if we're gonna, not really, but if we could get that printed out, because it shows up in our board book. So
Okay.
I could look at it like this.
Sure.
and then
Doesn't
it-
stack.
Yeah.
So what I'll do from here on out, we'll go ahead and continue to put it in the board book, but along with that position sheet that I give you, I will also give you these.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And there's no way to rotate it, so you have to.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions
Thank
on
you.
personnel?
Thank you, Mr. Byrd.
2017-18 RISD handbook, Mr. Hudson.
Madam Vice President Kurt, Superintendent Sanchez, members of the board, I believe you have a copy. And when I came to this position in May of 2015, one of the requirements of my position is to review the handbook each year. I believe that year was Mr. Byrd, myself, and Mr. Montanez met at Sallyport and talked for about 2 hours, and we made some adjustments that year to present to the board 2 years ago. But it was in dire need of a complete overhaul. One of our committee members, Jaime Martinez, said that the last time this had been updated was 1999, because he had sat on that handbook review committee. So we met on the 30th and 31st of May in the library, 7 hours each day for those 2 days. The committee was Jesse Boggs, who was a language arts teacher and the head wrestling coach at Roswell High last year. He's moved over to language arts, and assistant football coach and head wrestling coach at Roswell High this year. Samantha Ward, head soccer coach for girls at Roswell High. Fernando Sosa, head boys soccer coach, assistant boys basketball coach, and head girls golf coach at Goddard. Christy Hager, head girls volleyball coach at Goddard. Jaime Martinez, former head wrestling coach for 26 years, and the head girls soccer coach at Goddard. Leslie Tivis, athletic coordinator at Mesa Mountain View. Urbano Sosa, assistant girls soccer coach at Roswell High, and head boys and girls golf coach. James Vernon, head boys soccer coach at Roswell High, and Tim Fuller, who was the head track coach and freshman football coach at Roswell High School. That was our committee that met for 2 days. We worked really hard on, we took 40 pages back to back and condensed it to 34 one-sided. The big project was there was a lot of repetitive information in there. Much information was outdated. We had to consult with the NMAA website and make sure that our information from there was updated in terms of eligibility, physicals, transferring. We updated all that information. Mr. Boggs is back here, as long with Mr. Fuller. All were invited, but as you know, they had freshman orientation and practices tonight. But I want to say that Mr. Boggs, he's a language arts teacher along with being a football and wrestling coach, which is kind of a rare combination. And so when we got to formatting and proper grammar, he would tell us, well, in the Harvard method it's this, and the Webster method is this. So if there's any grammatical errors in there, consult with Mr. Boggs. We actually did have a pretty good time doing it as well. They worked really hard. Then we uniformed all the forms, and they're in the back. So equipment check-in, check-out, eligibility forms, New Mexico Equity Act forms that are required, deletion forms are all in the back, POs, uniform, rotation is in there, and guys help me, am I missing anything that I may have not had? We do plan on providing each head coach a copy and each head athletic coordinator, and it will be on the RISD website when you approve it and tell us to go forward.
Madam Vice President, members of the board, I want to thank all of the coaches and Mr. Hudson and his administrative staff for putting this together. Can you hold up the old one so they can see that, just one of those copies? That's what it looked like. It looks professional, it's representation of our district, and it's updated, and some of the requirements that we didn't have in the past were the deletion and inventory process. They are now clearly defined. We have the fall and spring seasons defined. We have deadlines so that when we attend award banquets, all our students will have their pins or letters at the time of the event, because we now have given them deadlines to get those ordered. And so I think the clarity and the requirements that we have, our students and our coaches will all benefit from understanding what the requirements and deadline dates are. We never had clearly defined that. So Mr. Hudson, coaches out there, thank you for spending the time, and your staff that typed this up and made it look presentable. We are going to pay to have them bound, but it's a document they're going to use all of the time, so I think it's worth $1 to have it bound and look professional for our coaches. And you all did a good job, and we'll stand for any questions you may have.
I think it looks great, Mr. Hudson. Congratulations. When I came on board, the school board, I looked at the athletic handbook, and I couldn't get through it. I talked to Mr. Hudson, and I said, Mr. Hudson, I'm so sorry, but there is just too much, too many mistakes. And he said not to worry, that they would next year get a group together and go through it. But I took that responsibility, and I just had to say, couldn't do it. So this is professional. This is just great. Thank you. Good work. Your team did a great job.
So I got a couple questions for you. So I know that you guys invested a lot of time, and thank you to you and your team to do this. But one thing I'd like to ask is, out of all this work that you did, what are you most proud of? Whether it might have been an addition or deletion, or what do you think is going to be the best benefit out of this?
The old book, there's so many different fingerprints on it. You can see, of course, with Jaime Martinez, a lot of the old head coaches, you can see a lot of Bradley stuff. They would write specific policy to fit in battle back and forth a little bit, and you hadn't been in there since '99. And so it was nice for us to be able to go through and wipe all that out. And to be able to sit together, all the different schools, and work together. We come up with a building policy that's real basic, real simple.
Procedures.
It falls in line with your policy, with the innovative policy. And just kept it real simple.
Coach
I
Bikes?
think the most tough thing I think we did is, this is my second year going into the district, and took care as head coach. And so I feel it's really clarified as to what's expected of coaches coming into the district, and maybe not familiar with procedures and protocol. And so I feel really that's been the most beneficial. So if someone comes in from outside of our community, there's a clear expectation of how to handle business. I think that's one of the most beneficial things that came out of that.
What they're really most proud of is that they convinced me that this was cut and paste. When I went to school, it was actually cut and paste. They kept reminding me of that.
You were looking for the scissors, huh?
Well, thank you guys for all of your work.
thanks.
We really appreciate it. Clean slate.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Bewley, assessment update. As we receive our park information, Mr. Bewley has a presentation for us.
Oh, yay.
Thank you.
Oh, that's very small.
Okay. Vice President Kirk, members of the board, Superintendent Sanchez, there's quite a lot of data to go through, so we're going to take it sort of piecemeal, and I'm going to stand off to the side here. I think I'm loud enough so that we'll be able to see when it comes up. There's so much to go through that Dr. Norfolk said we're going to bring something every meeting so we can kind of work our way through there. This was just, as Mr. Burris used to say, we a 10,000 foot view, 30,000 foot, 10,000 foot view. So we're just going to take a look, an overview at our park results, just to kind of give us a place to start a conversation. First of all, at the very beginning of this, we've got some comparisons with some other districts that are similar in demographics and also similar in size. They're pretty good sized districts. And these are the only ones that are going to have numbers because it was so dense with the numbers that we did some changes on there to make it easier to read. But we've got the state at the 5 different proficiency bands, the percentages, and then we've got Gadsden, Hobbs, Los Cruces, and Roswell. And this might be a little easier for us to take a look at as for comparison. So we've got our, let's see, pointer works. Yes, it is. Did not meet, partially meets, approaching, mid. There we go.
One more.
There we go. Mid expectations and exceeds. So everything that we have all the way through is going to be in that order. But this is a little easier to look at. So you can see where we compare as far as in the state and as far as compared to these other districts. Here, we want to be lower than the state. The did not meet and the partially meets. We want to be lower than everyone else because that means our kids will be on the approaching met and exceeds. And so this is ELA. This is overall, so this is all the grades 3 through 11 aggregated together, just for us to get an idea of how everyone else is doing in this. This is the math proficiencies, the same districts, same proficiency bands, and quite a bit of these down over here you're going to see are less than 1. So they're really not even going to show up as a bar at all in the bar graph. So here's our math proficiency overall, and I was talking to Superintendent Sanchez about a couple of these that just are head and shoulders above everybody else, Gadsden and Hobbs. And math is a challenging test with Park. And so there's obviously some work for us to be done, but it's good to know that there's some people out there that are addressing it, that we have some options, we have some resources we can look at. And of course, we have our work cut out for us.
And even though we did get recognized that we scored at the 22 percentile, we are exceeding in math, and we are above the state that was at 19.2%. So we do want to look into what Gadsden and Hobbs are doing so that we can continue to make those efforts, because they are just, as you saw in the chart, they're really making great progress in mathematics. So I know that I'll be taking the team to Gadsden to see what they're doing as far as their curriculum, to be able to make such great gains. They've been seeing these gains for the past 3 years, and so I think it's something that we should look into to see what they're doing over there.
In language arts, we didn't see that huge, meet expectations above and beyond, so.
Now, our approaching is at level 3. It's really not going to, it's not proficient. At the high school level, when they take this part test right now, they can pass with that, but the state is moving everyone towards met or exceeds. Right. So it's at level 4 is where we need to shoot for. And okay, our elementary schools is just a comparison over here on the far left side. You can see the state, you can see our ISD aggregated, and then all of our elementary schools. Now this is our level 3, 4, and 5 only, approaching met and exceeds. And the percentages are down the side there. It's just to give us an overall picture of how everyone's doing. You're not going to see very much green as we go through here. That's the exceeds. And so when we get to that level, obviously we're doing something that we're moving those kids up there, but as you can see, it's very small numbers. And you can see that we're still above the state over on this side. So there's our ELA 4, and it's going to be about the green, popping up everywhere, and still above the state. You can see a couple of schools really up there. ELA 5, so all of our ELA at the elementary school level were above the state in each one of them. Of course, quite a bit of that is still level 3, approaching. So it's the red, the bigger the red, the more kids we have that are proficient. So you can see that even all the way across our schools that are scoring high, we still have a ways to go to move them into the proficient bands. And if I'm going too fast, or
just tell us to stop or ask questions.
So here we go to 5, grade 5, grade 3 math, and we have quite a bit exceeds expectations here. So I think they did a really good job. And I think we need to notice that it's K1-2 is building up towards this. It's not one teacher, that's miracle work all of a sudden. It's a program. It's a process. And we're over here still above the state, a little bit more above the state.
And Mr. Bewley, I'd be interested to know too what the mobility rates are in these schools that are scoring so high compared to the schools that are not meeting.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, well, it is important
That's
for
a
us to have
factor.
the same curriculum all the way across, so I can seamlessly move from,
you would like to think that, but
about Washington. But it would be something to look at to say, well, do we have some schools that just don't have those kids? We've got them all year long, which of course is going to allow me to really, really impact them. You're exactly right.
But even if the curriculum's the same, moving a child, especially 2 and 3 and 4 times within a school year, that child's going to lose.
It may not be just our schools,
Right.
They leave and come back. So there's our math grade 3, math grade 4, math grade 5. You can see over here we're still doing well above the district average, but again, we have quite a bit on the level 3, the approaching as opposed to exceeds and met.
And same thing with these schools. Is there a highly qualified teacher in every classroom?
So
that's another
one I was looking
variable.
at was look at the jump. Right, so grade 3, grade 4, grade 5. Right, that's the school you're looking at. Yeah, there's quite a jump there, so you want to, again, it brings up something for discussion, something we need to look at. And so when they're looking at their 90-day plans, this is the kind of information they're going to be looking at. Okay, those are elementaries, middle schools. So on our ELA, all of a sudden now, we're not above the state now. So there's our 4 middle schools. I did not put Sidney Gutierrez in because that's a charter school. And there's our ELA 6, even closer over there, and 7, 8. So we're
you need to see
comparable
7?
across there.
Did you also see 7?
But Here, I'm sorry, let me go back.
We're gonna have
Where
to
I make
slow
you
you
sit.
down.
But what I wanted to see was how this is leveling out. So even though we get them here at grade 6 and we're below our state average, but that won't make you dizzy that way. You can see that we're getting up there and we're closing our gap so at least we're close to the state average. And you can see our grade also. I don't want to go back and forth too much with.
So one question back on the grade level 6 stuff. So when we have the state data, does that compare to where, like, we have our 6th graders in junior high schools, or is this compared to other schools where, 6th grade is still?
Like if you're saying, is it the middle school model everywhere? Correct. Well, it's not the middle school model everywhere, and when we look at the state, that's aggregated for everyone across the state, so even a K through 12 school would be in there, so you're gonna have all the different models put in there.
I'm just wondering if maybe the effects of, our 6th graders being in the middle school has an effect on their test scores versus being in the elementary school too. Well, I don't know if maybe that's something we can look into, or do we have other districts where we have the same scenario that we're in and compare and see if we're on the same trend versus somebody else that hasn't?
I'm sure there are, Mr. Sanchez. Well, Mr. Tackett, you can look into that for us and bring us back some data with grade configuration schools, that 6th grades at the elementary, and then the ones that are at the middle school, what does their data tell them? And are they seeing higher gains in 6th grade than we are in ELA and math?
Yeah, because it seems like the trend from 5th to 6th, and the concern from parents too is maybe it is that they're going too quick and they're getting into that scenario of junior high at too young of an age, and they're focusing on other stuff versus just school.
And we will see that in the transition years. We'll see that in 9th grade as well. Right. But the transition years have a children experience.
But that doesn't hold true for Brenda. So what are they doing to transition?
That's what we want
6th
to
grade.
do, is see that we're putting it into place, the same processes and curriculum and programs all across. So let's look at our map. There we go. Now, on our map, I want you to notice here on this side. Yep. It's the same, but
So it's not
the other
6th.
3 are.
Yep, it's 7th.
we have a little bit less of a gap. 6th.
Now 6th math.
And as we grow, you can see that grade 7, we jumped up above our state average, and we're still seeing quite a bit of 3, but that means that they're moving out of the below and partially meets. And by grade 8, so they're doing a pretty good job there in our middle schools at moving their math scores up. Now, if you notice, our green disappeared when it came to the 8th grade. But you have to realize that that grade level, all of your top math students are going to be pushed into algebra. So they're not going to be in there. So considering that our top kids are pulled out and are into algebra, accelerated into algebra, then we're still above the state. So I think we're doing pretty well there with what we're doing.
So the math scores.
That's 8th grade. So they would.
So you'll see the algebra scores now?
Here. So here's our algebra.
Okay.
Now, the algebra is, these guys get that in the course in the school that they're, the one that they're in. Now, this one's not really comparable because this is all algebra students, and RSD is all algebra students. But we're still doing well. I mean, we haven't lost anything from our grade 8 and our grade 7. And of course, the middle schools are way up here because that's our accelerated students. And that's pretty close, if it's not 100, it's pretty close to 100% there. But everyone else is up in the 90s. So, in the 3 and 4. Now, the more red we have, of course, you see a lot more red here than we've been seeing. So the more red we have, those are clearly proficient. And the blues are partially proficient. So math, the math curriculum and the math interventions, I think are really paying off. I think we can see that here. So we're going to go on to the high schools. And here's our ELA grade 9. Now, this is a transition year, but it's the same for everyone all across the state. So you can see we're very much in line with what the state's doing.
Mr. Bewley, could you address the board why you don't have university, high school, and
we're only going to have Goddard and Roswell
early college, high school?
Early college and university, they're on the semester. And so we didn't get all of their scores. So I'm waiting till we get those in for early college and university so we can bring them in and we can compare apples to apples. Because right now it looks like we'll have one grade with no one from universities and everyone from early college, and the next time it's just the opposite. So it's confusing.
So we'll be bringing that data at a later time once we get all the data from the
and I'm hoping to
PPD.
have that for the next meeting. Because Mr.
That's why you're only seeing these two. Yeah.
So, thank you for reminding me. Okay, in our grade 10 and our grade 11, we're pretty consistent across the board there. Now, we do start to fall behind the state here. Now, grade 11 is our final exam. This is where they do have to they have to be at this level. They've got to get a 3, 4, or 5 to be considered proficient, to meet the graduation requirements. So, the other kids that are on level 1 and 2, those ones going to be retesting as a senior. So let's take a look at our, there's the algebra again, that's the same one, because we got our Roswell off to the side here. Geometry, I don't know how, but I ended up with 2 scores from Barrendo, but because of masking, we can't, put those up here. So there's our geometry. This is grade 10. Now, again, we're starting to fall behind here within our state average. And algebra 2. Then again, this is the one, and you can see that there's just no green in the algebra 2 at all. So it's a challenging test. And we still have, anyone with a 3, 4, or 5, they've met their expectations, they don't have to retest, they don't have to come back there. But all the ones that are not in here, they're going to be retesting, so we're going to have quite a bit in November taking this park retest again to try and give them their minimum number of tries on the park exam.
Madam Vice President, members of the board, as you're seeing some of Roswell High's numbers decrease, again, because we don't have those highly qualified teachers in there, we're seeing that the proficiency is affecting their scores. And so we are working diligently on that, but I'm not surprised by seeing the deficit scores, knowing that at Roswell High I didn't have 4 math teachers throughout the year, and some of these kids that graduated in my Algebra 2 and my 4th year of math were not proficient because of not having a teacher at all, a highly qualified teacher in 4 years. And so that is one of our main focus points in instruction, to ensure that we have some solid instruction, if it's face-to-face or via online teacher, but highly qualified to teach the content. We cannot continue to move forward without having a highly qualified teacher for our students there.
And I know that's one of the priorities for the human resources.
We did get 2 more teachers that will start September 1, but we still need an additional, what's that, 3 math teachers after the 2 from Singapore? 4 at Roswell High. So we still need 4 additional after the 2 where we're going to pick up on September 1st.
So I don't mean to go off on a different trail since we're talking teachers now, but have we thought about what we can do for those positions, that we're short in, i.e. math, to get teachers in the district? One thing that came to mind is, since we're so lacking in these positions, is maybe can we offer a stipend to those teachers to where we can get them in and we retain them, just kind of because of the shortfall. I'm just kind of thinking outside of the box, because it just seems that being a math teacher in high school is not one of that's wanted. Mr. Brett, have we thought of anything?
So last year,
I know we've done this before.
Right. So last year we did a program between Goddard High School and Roswell High School where we had a certified teacher instruct a class, kind of like what we're doing now, virtual, over to Roswell High. Within the classroom, we had a substitute to facilitate, to make sure, there was no misbehavior, those kinds of things. As a matter of fact, my son was in that class and he did very well. There was a geometry class is what we used, and there are increments that we used to pay the teacher from Goddard last year, so that's a possibility. I know I've also spoken with Mr. Lujan in regards to proximity learning, which is it's an online where you actually have a live teacher streaming in to the classroom to provide instruction, answer questions, and those types of things. So there are some solutions out there that we've been looking into in order to help facilitate that at Roswell High.
I want to clarify though, because I think I heard Mr. Sanchez say, are there any other kinds of stipends or things you can do to maintain and recruit teachers? And that we can't do. You're talking about stipends and increments to pay for their time for planning to teach the class. But Mr. Cole, can you talk about the constraints that we have, that we cannot do those types of recruiting bonuses and signing bonuses that we're seeing across the states that are getting the teachers? So if you'll address that.
So, yeah, bonus is always a no-no in terms of governmental finance in state of New Mexico. And the reason why is the Anti-Donation Act for the state of New Mexico. And essentially what that act boils down to is quid pro quo, something for something. So in order to pay anybody for anything, we have to have something in return. Bonus doesn't qualify in terms of that. So I'll give you a quick example that we had looked at several years ago in repurchasing sick time or sick leave from staff. I think it went over pretty well that particular year, but there are all kinds of ideas on how can we get some more money in their pockets. And we had this debate, again, the Anti-Donation Act, and again, it always boils down to, what are we getting in exchange for that money? We can't just say that we're getting a person because they're paid a salary. I think we had looked at, in years past, providing a moving stipend for so many miles outside of district. Those types of things, my understanding is those are still on the books and would be offered at our recruiting fairs. Yes, sir.
And many of the districts that our sister districts have are the money that they are paying for increments or stipends, but they're coming out of foundational funds, and that's what we don't have.
Exactly.
That's where we're missing the boat, and we're missing the opportunity for some of those teachers in other districts right outside of us, that they're taking our other teachers and taking teachers from us because they're able to pay those increments or sign-on bonuses or retention bonuses. If they, especially in the areas that we're seeing across the state. When we went to Philadelphia, it was in the areas of math, science, and special education.
What's the brick wall we're hitting on the foundation stuff?
We just need to get that going. I think we have some good ideas, but I think we need to start talking about the setup, the organization, the bylaws, and getting some individuals to fund and to actually just start at the root, building it up to get that going.
Kind of where I was kind of going is like, like we have our bilingual endorsement and we get, those teachers are in that category too. I just didn't know if there was a way that we could probably utilize something like that so we're not in the anti-donation to where, that keeps teachers. Right, and they know they're appreciated, for those shortfalls. I'm just kind of trying to think outside of the box. I know we have the sideboards of the clause there, but
maybe Mr. Cole, you can take a look at that, how we can do the bilingual increments and why we can't do some of these other increments.
Absolutely.
I don't, that's a question I would have too.
Yeah, and certainly with Mr. Byrd, Ms. Sanchez, and I can kick around ideas, and we all love thinking outside of the box, so.
Thank you.
All right.
Sorry.
No.
Rabbit trail.
That's, this is the time. It's
It all goes together.
Discussion and history.
Curriculum, instruction, and funding, all together.
So I think, everything ties together. So.
Oh, you were there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just waiting for that point. So next month we'll look at that Park Grove. We'll look at the UHS if I've got everything by that time, and early college and ice station. So I'm still up for the next one. Let's see. Do I just keep clicking? Turn it on?
For the next one, yeah, for the EO. The access. Do you have to click?
Me? No.
Oh, he sets it.
It's,
Okay.
They're loading it up.
Okay, there we go.
Let's see if we
Access.
got the right one. Turned on? Yes. Okay. There we go. Okay. So this access for ELLs for 2.0 has been 2 years that it's been online. It's a secure, in case, I'm sorry if I'm being redundant here for you, but I wanted to give you a background. It's a secure large-scale English language proficiency assessment administered to kinder through 12th graders who have been identified as English language learners. is given annually in WIDA Consortium member states to monitor student progress in acquiring academic English. Access for ELLs 2.0 is only available to consortium member states. There's 33 of them, including New Mexico. Access for ELLs 2.0 is aligned with the WIDA English Language Development Standards and assesses 4 domains: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And it's online for grades 1 through 2. Kinder and alternate are still paper-based tests. Now, this is the second year that we've done the 2.0, but this is the first year they've done this. To meet language demands of college readiness standards, we are raising the bar for language proficiency. Students will need to showcase higher language skills in 2016-17, the one we just finished, to achieve the same proficiency level scores. This is a result of a process called standard setting. Standard setting determines the student performance required for each proficiency level through a series of decisions made for each grade level by expert panels of teachers, as well as the district and state English language learner administrators. So, standard setting was done this year, and so there's a huge change all the way across. And this here is an understatement. Some student scores may go down, and fewer students may exit the program. Now, the cut scores have changed. So the test is not different, but the cut scores have changed. So to whatever we did to reach a proficiency level of 6.0, which is the highest there is, meaning you're on a level now with English only speaking peers, that's now a 5.0. So everything else has gone down, right? Now, years and years and years, students have exited the program at a rate of about 15% per year. So we've been pretty consistent with that, and it's been above the goal set by the state, and it's been above the state level, so we've done pretty well. But for this last year, that was down to about 1.8%. And across the consortium, it's been about 1% of the students exiting now. The speech domain, which is usually the highest score, because you'll see students that speak very fluent English, you can understand very fluent English, but they don't have the academic language, so it doesn't translate to reading and writing scores. So the speech domain has usually been very high, and there's going to be, I'll show you in the next PowerPoint some real changes on that one. Another change that we've been lobbying the state for is the alternate access. And I can't show you those because the numbers are so small that we have to keep them masked. And students in the alternate access were unable to exit because they never reach a level of 5.0. It's not possible on their test. So they finally gave us some goals that can actually be met. And so we did exit several students, nearly half really of the students that are taking the alternate access. So that's a good change. We're going to be focusing on those kids and raising their English proficiency as well. Now, what does this mean for us? Okay, PED is going to start using our ESL score, our access scores in 2018-19. So we still have 2 more years to look at that. All of our AMAOs have been in the past a proficiency score, a percentage, how many proficiency you have. So we're going to be moving to a growth model. So not the proficiency model. Now, as we've seen in the last 2 years, English language development has been being ingrained into every part of the PED, including in the NM Teach. It's in there, the English language development standards that we're looking at. So it's something that we're going to need to intensify for everybody as we work our way through these next couple of years. And we're going to need to look, especially with our ESL teachers, specific strategies for English proficiency in speaking, because we're asking the state for guidance on us. Okay, what is it that you're looking for, so that we'll know that we meet that level? Because if, I'll give you an example. For kindergarten, to reach a level of 6, you have to be able to relate a story from beginning to end, and that could be like a 6-sentence story. With transitions and have it in order. So, we need to have some guidance on what it is that you're looking for that's a 6.0. Because, as long as the kids know what they need to produce, they'll produce it. So, 2018-19 is going to be the first year that Access Grade will also be utilized for school grades, not the individual teacher grades.
So we have this year to work and get those standards up and to increase their professional development with all our staff so that we're ready for 2018-19 when now that component will be added to the school grades.
And that, I think, is the next one. This one, and the next one, we're actually going to our voice chance to catch up with that. And we did get him in the right order. So this is the one that didn't show up when we were meeting the cabinet meeting. This is the one I couldn't get to turn on. Okay, so give it a second to load. There we go. Oh, that's the same one again.
That's the only one that.
Do I need to exit out? Okay. There we go. So this is our district proficiency report, and I'm not going to go through each one and look at them all, but it does go by grade level. So you've got your listening, speaking, reading, writing domains, and each one of them we get a score, 1 through 6. Now this is the number of kids at that level, the percentage out of the total number. Oral language is my listening and speaking together. Literacy is my reading and writing together, and comprehension is my listening and reading together. And this one here, though, is our overall score. That's the one that we look at for exiting students. Now, we can only exit someone according to state statute when they reach a level of 5 bridging or a level of 6 reaching. So you can see that within our kinder, only 2 kids exited. Now, that's not unreasonable because most of these kids are just starting with English. So we're looking at about, the state's giving us, looking at 5 years. It had been 3 years before, but we're looking at 5 years to exit them. So if they start at kinder, we're assuming that by 5th grade they're going to be English proficient. And for the most part, that's pretty much true. But when we start getting into our grades 1, which is now our online test, take a look right here on our speaking. Now, the writing is the most challenging because whenever you learn a new language, the productive side is the most difficult side. And so the writing is the most challenging level, but here we don't have anybody at the 5th or 6th, level 5 or level 6 in speaking, which is really unusual. You know, that's not the way that we've seen it in years before. And we were thinking it was going to be reading and writing, so our ESL teachers were really, focusing on academic language, and then it turns out to be speaking. But it's something with some guidance that we can address.
So the writing is done with the computer?
Yes, which is, kindergarten kids, right?
This is first grade.
First grade.
First grade.
So, well, just like kindergarten.
So
okay, first graders.
Teaching them keyboarding.
Yes, they don't have to produce that much. But, I mean, if it's going to come to this, that we're talking about just quantity rather than quality, now it presents some more challenges to us. Now, the kids aren't timed, so, they can pick to time, even if it's one finger, because I think just their dexterity is not there.
No, it's not like and manipulation of the mouse. And
I mean, there's a lot to it. It's not just, producing it. But it's offered online. That's the test that we're given. Now, if you take a look in this area right here, you'll see that the same as we go through the different grades. And right here is the number that exit. And this is not the alternative test. This is just the online test.
The other is endurance too.
Yeah.
Teaching them endurance.
it's something.
So, what are we really measuring?
Right. So, our speech and our numbers right here, the overall, is where we've really seen a big hit. And I went through here, I don't think I saw anybody reach a 5 or 6. So I don't know what they're looking for at that level, so we're going to need some guidance from the state. And normally, by 5th grade, our numbers are so tiny. Let's see, by fifth grade, our numbers are usually so tiny that they've all exited by this time. But one thing that's going to mean for us is we're going to have more EL students next year, because we're used to adding in 100 and exiting on 100. So this year we're only exited out 1%. So our ESL numbers are going to be growing, every year.
And how does our population, our teacher?
Right. So we're going to need to make sure that all of our teachers are well schooled in the service development standards and how to implement those and how to bring up the academic value for everybody, not just our last year. Now, by the time they get to high school, these are our long-term ELs that have been either they're brand new to the country or they've been ELs for a long time. So there are some issues as to why they're not going to be exiting, but still very low. There's none in the bridging and reaching. And this year we didn't have one high school student exit. Yeah, so that was a big, huge change. Because by the time we get to that level right there, of course, the academic language demands are quite a bit higher. But we've always had kids exit at the high school level. So we're going to be looking for guidance on that and resources. Of course, we'll bring it back to you as we implement those and as we find out what's going on and what are the implications for that.
Madam Vice President, members of the board, this is where Mrs. Andrea Nieto Walker will be working with Mr. Tackett in the instruction office to bring to you at our September board meeting some strategies that she's been working on, and she'll be collaborating with an ESL and bilingual task force to see what we're going to need as Mr. Bewley gets the blueprints from the speaking, so we know exactly what we're going to be accountable for, and as we work with all of those components to be able to increase these scores. So we'll be bringing some more information to you in September.
And one more thing too, when we saw these presentations, we saw a lot of highs and a lot of lows, even within the district. And then, what really flagged to me was, we saw Gadsden and these other districts. Do we have a maybe plan to reach out to other districts when you see these red flags and say, what are you guys doing?
That's exactly what Superintendent Sanchez was talking about, taking us down to Gadsden. And this is where your personal connections come in. So there are some connections there where she knows people there and we can connect. And there's a group going down to Gadsden in particular just to see, especially on their map. Let's find out what they're doing over there. Let's bring it back.
With their ELs as well. And they've invited us, Mr. Sanchez, at any time that we can go down there with the simply making a phone call, and she has people available for us to meet with.
Awesome.
So
we hope that there are decent differences with the access scores, but it's the same all the way across the state, 1%.
At the state,
yeah, so we all got to exactly the same way.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bewley.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, it's yours.
Okay, yeah. Board communications, new and unfinished business, and discussion of board communications. Mr. Sanchez.
Oh, man, I feel like I've been talking a lot already.
I know.
So, anyway, I just want to once again thank everybody in the district for everything that you do, especially starting this school year. And I wish I had a little bit better speech to give to everybody when we had our presentations for the first day of school. But anyway, just want to say thank you to everybody. And one thing that I kind of focused on was feedback, and I really want to reach out to the principals that are and leaders that are in the room, including TOSAs, and the ones that are watching right now. Is that one thing we really need to focus on is what's working and what's not working. And one thing that we also need to do is make sure that the communication is there, and that if it's not working, we need to know. If it's working, and you kind of like what you see here, we also need to know that, because other schools can utilize that information and that data. So please ensure that you are communicating, especially with the leadership in this room, and that hopefully it gets to us if we can help. So want to reach out to everybody, and thank you again to the teachers, staff, maintenance, everybody. We saw that come together, especially with university. You kind of see what this district is made of. When things happen, people react, and we're here for the kids. So thank you to everybody again. So One thing also, we've also seen, a lot of new leadership when it comes to principalships. And one thing I also want to focus on is the leadership that's also in this room. So I want to learn from the past here, guys. I also want to make sure that we plant that seed with you guys and ensure that the district knows that you guys are here for support. I don't want to go back in the past, but I want to learn from that. In the past, sometimes we got that response that, we didn't have that. We always reach out and we don't get that feedback from our individuals downtown. And I know that we have a strong organization here, and I know we have some new eyes, new fresh set of eyes, as I've always said. But one thing I really want to plant that seed with you guys is the support. What I don't want to get is the phone calls, from teachers, from principals and stuff like that, where they're just not getting that, and I know that we're not. So as Ms. Austin would say, it's continue moving forward, and please, I stress that support. Make sure you're reaching out to those individuals and that they're getting that feedback. It really means a lot in what they see as far as what we're doing down here. So also talked about kind of looking and thinking outside of the box a little bit. And one thing that's been brought up, and I know this is a little bit early, is focusing in on the teachers that we have and the teachers that we're losing and why. So I know that, one thing that the district has is incentive to bring to this district is, we have one of the highest starting pays in the state. And, that's always a good thing to get teachers here. But it seems that, we're losing teachers along the way. And one thing I kind of want to reach out and figure out if we can find data on is what are other districts doing around us? So like, we have Artesia, we've got Carlsbad, we've got, Lovington, Clovis. And, one thing that was brought up that I remember a while back that Ms. Austin brought up is when we're looking at the numbers when it comes to teachers as far as vacancies are concerned, it seemed that a lot of those districts were a little bit lower, if not a lot lower. We only had 2, 3, 4, a handful of vacancies. And one thing that I would ask Superintendent Sanchez is maybe can we reach out to those districts and see what they're doing? I know sometimes this has to deal with pay, and sometimes we can look at that, and that's why I'm saying that's a little bit early because we've already approved all of that stuff. But I kind of want to look into that too if we can, Mr. Cole, also to see where the sideboards there. If we're losing teachers 5, 10, 15 years down the line, why is it? And one thing that's come to my attention is, the teacher's time in service compared to everybody else. And that's kind of one thing that's kind of, morale hit to some of these teachers is, we've been here for so long and, we're not seeing any type of increment. But this is just something that I want to plant the seed with you guys on and look at, because, when we look at these numbers, it's, we always see that it's consistent as far as, we always have a large amount. And I just want to plant that seed with you guys and see if that's something we can look into.
Sure.
Also, so we are also talking about bilingual, and Superintendent Sanchez, when we had our meeting with the other board members back in July, you gave us your student achievement goals and stuff like that. Really appreciate you, taking the opportunity to get this to us. One thing that I wanted to plant with you, and I know we've already kind of started this going, but if it's okay with the board and okay with you, is actually adding the bilingual curriculum to that. To see if we can actually have something that's actually developed, sooner rather than later. And I appreciate everybody's input on this too, and Ms. Nieto and everybody coming on board. I know this is going to be a big undertaking, but it's something that we've needed for a long time, is getting that curriculum. And I know we've started it, but I just want to see if that's something that we can put as your actual goal, Superintendent Sanchez, if that's okay.
Looking at it.
And then also, when it comes to outreach with the community, I know I planted the seed too, and I know you're going to get back to me next month, but that's maybe one thing on community outreach goals, to make sure that we're looking at the Pathways program in the early college, high school, to make sure that that's something that everybody in this district should know about, every parent should know about. So if that's an option that somebody needs and somebody can be successful, then that they have that option and they know about it. So I think other than that, I'm off my soapbox. But again, just really want to say thank you to everybody. you know, some of us here on the board are married to educators in this district, and we see that it's not really a summer break. You know, this kind of started about 3 weeks ago. You know, I got to get my classroom ready. You know, these teachers really take pride in what they do and everybody involved in those schools. So once again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I'm here to fight for you, and I'm here for the kids, and just really want to reiterate that. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez.
Sorry.
Mr. Getty.
Well, man, every time I follow Ruben, I'm like, okay, I was going to say that. I'm not going to say that now. No, but I will say, I want to agree with Ruben, Mr. Sanchez, on looking at salaries and stuff like that. Something's missing in our district. We lose so many teachers, and just recently the loss of some of our teachers, when you talk to them why they left, it comes down to dollar signs. So anyway, it's just something, plant the seed. Let's start looking at it and seeing what we can do. I think that's important. But I also want to say thank you to all the teachers, everybody, teachers. I mean, everybody that's in these schools. You guys have been working all summer. You guys have been working so diligently the last couple of weeks that when these kids go on Thursday, they're going to an operating school, and that's a big deal. I've seen some pictures from I think it was a secretary who was a new secretary to school. She walked in and the office was a mess, just a complete disaster. The past secretary had retired, and she looks at it, and this is what she had, and she worked 2 full days getting it just cleaned up. And so that's for me as a parent. I get to walk into that school and see that the school is clean. And that takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of effort. So we do really appreciate everybody for doing that. One of the things I want to say is we met as a board in a special work session. It seems like years ago, but it was really like a couple weeks ago. As a district, we have a very cohesive board. We work well together. We had some conversations that night that surprised me. I was like, oh, didn't know that. So it's really good, and we want to communicate. We want to know what's going on. We want to hear from everybody in the district about the good things and the bad things. But we really do want to hear about the good things too. So just know that as a board, we're here to support you. We're here for the children. And we're here for the district. I mean, I've been doing it now for just a little bit, and I can tell you the only reason you would want to be on the school board is because you care about people and kids, because it's a thankless job, right? I'm not saying that. Yes, it is. It is pretty bad. I'm just kidding. I've enjoyed working with these guys, and I've just enjoyed getting to know the people in the district a little bit better. But we are here for you, and thank you so much for everything that you do, and we're excited for Thursday. I know I am, because gosh, my house will stay clean for a length of time. That's it.
The kids will be gone, and so will the wife. Thank you, Mr. Getty. Mr. Edwards?
Well, I'm a little bit tired, so I ain't got too much to say. But I think, you know, when we ran for office, some of us made some commitments. My first commitment was I'm going to represent the schools in the district that I live in, but I'm going to also represent the other schools in the district. Maybe I've overcommitted myself, but one of the first things I did was I went out to Mesa Middle School, met the new football coach, and visited with the young guy, and I made a commitment to go out and paint a football field. I went out there and I painted a football field at 6 o'clock 3 weeks ago. Gave him all the materials to help this young man, and I think he's gonna be successful. But part of the reason that I ran is I have a lot of I believe I I bring integrity to anything that I do. Not saying that the other people up here don't bring the integrity, but I think, you know, we represent you folks, the school district, the parents, the community, the staff. And I've found that whenever I've talked to certain staff members about certain issues, they've gotten back to me, and the follow-up is very consistent. And the questions that I get are from my constituents out, and I bring them to the people here at the office, and I think they've been pretty receptive and following up. And like I'll use Mr. Cole here. You know, we've been meeting for the last 3 or 4 times. Anytime I've walked into the building, I've brought up an issue, and he's followed up with me on it. I think we've got a good school district. I think we've got some of the best teachers. And, you know, money's not always the issue when it comes to raising scores. You know, if you're doing it for money, sometimes you're doing it for the wrong reason. Your heart has to be in it. And I'm not going to be real long-winded, but, you know, I think part of the reason that we keep losing teachers is based upon, like you said, they put a lot of the time in there, and there's nothing at the end for them. You know, I hate to talk about tenure, but hey, I'm a firm believer in tenure. It creates cohesion, stability, and without that, you know, teachers come and go. I think we got a good program here, and you know, I do listen. I got a phone call. I guess Ruben gave the new principal at Nancy Lopez my phone number, and she invited me to go to their school deal. But
sorry, I dropped that.
But it was good though. I called her back, and I saw the young lady here, and I'm going to go visit with her tomorrow. But if any of y'all have any questions or something that's not being answered, bring it to my attention, and I'll bring it to somebody else's attention. And if we don't solve it there, I'll take it to somebody else. I'd like to thank Mr. Juan Oropesa back there for coming to the meeting. You know, he's a former school board member, and I value a lot of his opinions because he brings a world of wisdom. And I think that's something that we need to look at is look at some of the old school board members that we've had. I've had the pleasure of knowing quite a few of them, and I respect them. And I don't say that a lot about people, because I don't respect everybody. You have to earn my respect, the same way I would expect me to earn your respect. I just hope we have a good year. There's going to be bumps in the road, but we got to keep on trucking. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. And I too want to mention that what a successful back-to-school presentation. Thank you, Ms. Sanchez, for thinking outside of the box and presenting this. And thank you to our technology folks for getting it up and running and streaming live. What a success. I'm so proud. Every comment I heard, which I really didn't hear that many, which is unusual, it was very positive. I had about 3 or 4 texts that morning and saying thank you. They appreciated it and appreciated the time in the classroom. Also, Ms. Sanchez, thank you, and Mr. Graham, I didn't hear your name in there. Thank you for breakfast. It was delicious, and I appreciate all the cafeteria does. As a former educator, principal, director, now school board member, I know it takes an entire team working to get a school ready. And when I toured University High School and saw the amount of work that was put into that building before the water line broke, it just broke my heart. Because all that work to get a school ready and then have it ruined with water right before school starts. Why couldn't it have happened at the beginning of the summer? Just breaks my heart. Board training, I went to leadership training in Cloudcroft from around the district, actually the state. We have board trainings during the summer for 2 days, and I am so glad I went. I learned a tremendous amount of information that I'm going to have to utilize rather rapidly. And I'm just so thankful that we have these board trainings, and I want to encourage my fellow board members, if you possibly can, attend, especially the one in the summer, because it's so intense, but it's so focused on exactly what we're doing. So I will present more information as we move along and we go. I attend more trainings, but it was very worthwhile. The next thing I have is board calendars. I have been looking at putting together a board calendar for each of the members. Ms. Kane, did we have a sample? Okay, so what I'm thinking about doing, board members, is having a hard copy of a regular calendar that we don't have nowadays. We all put everything on here, but I like looking at a hard copy with all of our dates and everything on it that we can bring to the board members. So if you're interested, we'll move forward with that. Would that be something that would be reasonable, something you'd like to have with all of our dates, our school board meetings, our everything on it? Would that be useful?
Yes.
Okay.
Madam President, Vice President, members of the board, so hard copy versus electronic. I just want to make sure and ensure that the time we put in this is going to be beneficial to the board members. So if you have a preference on how your calendar looks, if you will email Ms. Holly, and that way if you want electronic, we can do it electronic, or if you want the paper copy calendar that we'll be purchasing, we just want to make sure that we get you the format that you would benefit from. And if they're all paper copies, that's great. Just let us know so we know what kind of format to give it to you.
Okay. Well, I had discussed hard copy because of the fact that it gives us something to open up, bring to the board meetings, and then we can
scratch on it.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that was my thought.
Am I hearing a majority of paper copies, so we purchase them?
I think
is that
paper, Mr. Edwards?
And I will be, and I told Ms.
Okay.
I told Ms. King that I'd be willing to sit and help with that, because I did that every year. Back to school, I sat down with my staff, I gave them a hard calendar and in every one of my teachers' hands, and I planned out every single date on that first, before we started school. So they knew when every single fire, should I be saying that out loud? They knew when every single fire drill was going to happen. Oops. I got that look. So that first week, they knew when their end of the year field trips were going to happen that last week of school. Sorry.
You're retired.
So anyway, I know. So to me, it was very beneficial and it really helped. So that was my intention, wanting to bring that to the board.
One thing that I'll probably just bring up with guys is let's just try and keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
We don't have to make it real complicated. Simple,
easy.
Just with the dates
yeah,
on it.
we don't need
Yeah.
something extravagant, just something simple.
Don't go nuts.
So I was thinking that as we were working with Mrs. Kane on this to make it applicable and reasonable, that we would do stickers that we could actually type on the computer and then just put the stickers in the calendar.
Perfect.
I think that's the fastest way to expedite that procedure in order to get those ready. And then we can either do them by sheets and give them to you to put on your calendar for each month so that you have those as we know of upcoming events, just so that it's manageable for Mrs. Kane to ensure that we can update those calendars.
And I don't want to make it overburdensome for her, so I'm willing to donate.
As long as it's easy for Ms. King.
Yeah,
Well,
easy for you and simple.
And me too, because I will take that on too.
Okay, so we'll have those calendars ready for you.
Okay, now the next thing we need to discuss is breakfasts in the schools. So I've asked Ms. King to email, if the board approves, the school principals and ask them for dates. And in the past, I know it's been 2 a week, correct, Ms. King? 2 a week? Yeah, what we've done in the past, and starting at 7:30 or 7:50, I forgot what it was.
I think it kind of varied depending on the school.
Okay. So let the school pick and then, okay, board members, are you still, I did
I'll
ask.
make all of them, but I'm going to try.
Well, same here. And I did talk to some of the principals and they said, yes, we want them. We want to have them.
When do you want to
So
start? Because it takes a good 3 months to
get them all in.
When would you like to start?
As soon as you can get the email out and get some responses, so give us a week.
Or two.
Or give them a week
Because
or
we need to
two.
be able to.
And it has to be posted.
And
How
we'll
about the
work-
1st of September? Does that sound good? 1st September?
Sure.
Okay,
September's a good month.
yeah. Start with September, then that gives principals and schools a reasonable amount of time to get everything up and running. Okay, then the New Mexico School Board Association Policy Review. I just drew a blank.
Isn't that an action item tonight?
That
It's a
is.
discussion item, just
So
seeing
we'll
We can
move
discuss
on.
about that.
And, okay, so we'll move on, then that concludes our committee, or our committee reports. You sit on the finance, that brings me to a next one, I'm sorry. Yes, Finance Committee. I will be attending I was an alternate on the Finance Committee, so I'll be sitting in with you until we can get that second person. So I will be the alternate sitting. Okay.
On the Finance
On the
Committee.
Finance, Unless there's another board member that wants to do that. I know. Okay, so any other committee reports? Mr. Getty, do you have anything from policy review or anything?
No, just what we talked about today, but I think we'll
That's-
have to just,
Bring that up later?
yeah, well, we'll
during
have to
the
figure
time?
that out with Ms. Sanchez, so it's
Okay.
not.
Perfect. Mr. Edwards, anything about policy? Sitting on the policy review? Good to go. Okay, the only committee that I have to report on is the health, retention and recruiting of healthcare. And Ms. Sanchez is still working, you're working on the brochures for that. Okay, so
We'll
I
have
think
it
that
for September.
sounds good. Okay, so that's that concludes our board communication and unfinished business. Okay, now moving on, we'll now have approval of the minutes.
I recommend approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of July 11th, 2017, and the board work session of July 26th, 2017.
Are there any corrections or deletions to the minute?
Let's see.
Okay, anybody? If not, I'll have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of July 11th, 2017, and board work session of June 26th, 2017. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Getty?
Second.
And a second from Mr. Sanchez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, so the minutes stand as approved as stand. We will now move on to the consent agenda. Approval of the bills, authorization of the August bills, approval of August bars, approval of the end of the year maintenance bars for 2016-17, and approval of temporary cash loans. Ms. Sanchez.
I recommend approval of the consent agenda.
Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
It was moved by Mr. Sanchez and second by Mr. Getty. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion carries to approve the consent agenda. Thank you. We'll now have action items. Moving on, we will have The first is the resignation of Ms. Nicole Austin as board member in District 2, effective as of July 28, 2017. Ms. Sanchez?
I recommend approval of the resignation of Nicole Austin as RISD board member in District 2, effective as of July 28, 2017.
May I have a motion to approve the resignation?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sanchez made a motion and Mr. Getty second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, the motion carries. Now, is there any discussion on the resignation of Ms. Austin as RISD board member in District 2, effective as of July 28th?
So I just wanted to say, maybe if she's watching tonight, was, you know, thank you for your service for the past 18 months of, you leaving a little bit of your soul with this district because, you know, as we talked about earlier, you know, when it comes to being elected in these positions, kind of piggybacking on what Mr. Edwards said, it is a thankless job. It's very stressful at times. I know that there was many times where we've lost some sleep and lost our appetites on things that are going on because sometimes there's hard decisions you have to make, and I know a lot of us own that sometimes. So I just want to say thank you to Nicole for her time. She's going to be missed, and you know, God bless you, and good luck on your future endeavors.
I'd like to say the same thing. Thank you to Nikki for being here, and she, just in the short time I knew her, I got to see somebody who really knew what she was doing, and so sad to see her go.
Mr. Edwards?
Well, you know, I only got to meet with her, last 4, 5, 6 months, but I'll tell you right now, she had a way of, a different style of leadership. And I'll say this about the lady, you know, she brought a lot of class to this board and to prior boards. And I don't say that lightly, but, you know, I had my differences with her, but I'll tell you right now, I really respected that lady because her heart was, I would say, in the right place. And so, you know, good luck. And, you know, I've spoke to her 3 or 4 different times, and I will be in contact with her because I do value her opinion, and I think she brought a lot of assets to the school district. But the one thing, she had a lot of dignity, and she brought a lot of poise, which you don't normally see that. But, you know, she made her decision, and, you know, I tried to talk her into staying because that's how much respect I had for her. So, good luck, and we'll be seeing her.
And I will echo those sentiments too. It was a difficult decision for her, I know. When we ran for the school board, it was a very difficult time. The community spoke, and there was a lot of decisions made and movement that just was rapid at the speed of light. It just, everything moved so rapidly. And when she agreed to take on the presidency, that was another burden that it's huge. It's very time consuming, and when you move up in your position in your day job and then take on this responsibility, it's a lot of work. I don't know how anybody does it and holds a full-time job. I have no clue.
You lose your hair.
And a lot of other things, but I wouldn't go there. I just,
really bad.
yeah, just in these past few weeks or past few days when I've been filling in, it's just been, it's very, very time-consuming. So I just want to applaud her for making the decision and putting her family first. That took a lot. And as we move forward, team, we'll get there. We'll move forward and we'll make the best of it. And thank you, Ms. Austin, for your time served. Okay, now we'll move on to item number 2, discussions and vote regarding the process and appointment of new board members to complete the term in the vacant seat 2. Is there any discussion regarding the process and appointment of the new board members to complete the term in the vacant seat, District 2?
What's our plan as far as starting the interview process? Because I think by law we have, is it 45 days?
45 days to fill the district seat, and that would have started as of July, effective July 28th when she turned in her resignation.
Okay.
So we can post the position and accept letters of interest, and we can use the same format that has been used before. If you would like, I can read, and I can read what it states.
I think we're good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
So we'll post that. We're seeking applicants to fill District 2, and we'll run that for, let's see, the last day would be at 4 p.m. on Friday, August the 18th, 2017. Late applications will not be accepted, so 4 o'clock on Friday the 18th would be the last day to accept. And then we would like to conduct interviews. That leaves the position or the application open for 7 days, and then have interviews. Would like to interview in the library, and of course we have to do everything in open meeting. Post the questions in the Roswell Daily Record, and that's been done in the past. That's a process that has been done in the past. And then start the interviews in late August. Is that a good timeline?
That'll be a good timeline.
That's a good timeline.
Okay.
And I guess depending on how many applicants we get, we can determine if we need multiple days or not. But
okay.
Correct.
Yeah. You know, so we all make sure we can make it.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's going to be a challenge, but.
Yeah, it will be a challenge for all of us, but it will be in the evening after hours.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and possible dates could be August 21st, 22nd, 29th,
No,
or 30th.
that's when it's not available.
Oh, not available, I'm sorry. Thank you for reading. No So, any other dates other than that, then we will interview.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, so then we have the process. We will post in the paper, and we will accept applications. They'll send us a letter of interest and a resume.
Madam Vice President and
Yes.
members of the board, who are those going to? Are they going to Ms. Holly Keene, or are they going to the board?
Ms. Kane in the past has accepted those, correct? Yes. Yeah, and date stamped them.
So they'll be going to
And
Holly.
check with the county to make sure that they're in that.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. So may I have a motion to accept the letters of interest and resumes for candidates interested in the vacated seat for District 2 with the deadline to submit as of August the 18th, and the ad for the resumes and letters of interest can come out in the paper on Friday, August the 11th. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Getty and second by Mr. Sanchez. So now all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, so that will be our process moving forward to fill board seat 2. Okay, moving on, possible reorganization of the School Board of Education. Is there any discussion of possible reorganization of the RISD Board of Education's offices? May I have a, May I have a motion to approve the reorganization?
So we're approving the reorganization.
We're
then
approving the
then we'll
reorganization, then we'll
Okay.
reorganize.
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Getty made the motion,
Second.
and Mr. Sanchez second. So we will reorganize our ISD board. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. So we will now reorganize. I will now accept nominations for President of the RISD Board of Education. May I have a motion to accept, may I have names?
Nomination. I nominate Mona Kirk.
I second that.
Okay. Any other candidates?
Good luck.
Okay, may I have a motion to accept the nomination of Mona Kirk as Board President?
So moved.
Mr. Getty made the motion. May I have a second?
Second.
And Mr. Sanchez second. Roll call, Ms. Kane.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Getty?
Yes.
Ms. Kirk?
Yes.
Mr. Sanchez?
Yes.
I don't think it would do any good to decline, so
You
I'll
can't.
stay where I am. Okay, now I will accept nominations for Vice President of the Board. May I have a nomination, or may I have names, please?
I'd like to nominate Ruben Sanchez for Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Do I have a second?
We have to second that? Okay, we second that.
Okay, and Mr. Getty, that's a nomination and a second. Nope, I guess we don't. We just need nominations. Then we're going to go to a vote. Any other candidates?
It's okay, you're brand new
Okay,
president.
Yeah, it's
yes.
hard.
May I have a motion to accept the nomination as Mr. Ruben Sanchez for Vice President of the Board?
So moved.
Second? I'll second that. Roll call. So it was moved by Mr. Edwards, Mr. Getty, and seconded by Ms. Kirk. Roll call.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Getty?
Yes.
Ms. Kirk?
Yes.
Mr. Sanchez?
Yes.
Congratulations. Okay, now we're not going to I guess, do we want to reorganize secretary? Okay. Nominations for secretary.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Alan Getty as Secretary of the Board.
I will second that. Okay. Well, we don't need a second. Okay, any other nominations? Okay, well, I'll stand for, okay, now we need a motion.
Say that one more time.
Motion?
Motion.
Mr. Sanchez makes a motion, I second, and now roll call. Ms.
Mr.
Kane?
Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Getty?
Yes.
Ms. Kirk?
Yes.
Mr. Sanchez?
Yes.
So we now have our new Board of Education positions filled. I will be representing the Board President. Thank you, Mr. Sanchez, for stepping up.
Yes,
You'll be
thank you.
Vice President, and Mr. Getty will retain his seat as Secretary. So, get out the pencil and the paper, Mr. Edwards. Okay,
Mr. Getty?
I'm sorry, Mr. Getty, Mr. Edwards, I'm sorry. I'm looking over to my left and saying your name. I don't want to confuse you any more than I already am. Okay, so now we're moving on to number 7, Sunset Elementary, the Roswell-Sertoma Club Grant. Mr. Cole.
Madam President, I recommend approval of the Sunset Elementary Roswell-Sertoma grant application.
Is there any discussion of the Sunset Elementary Sertoma Club application? No discussion. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. Getty made the motion. Second?
Second.
Mr. Sanchez. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Congratulations, the Roswell-Sertoma Club grant application is approved. CWA agreement, bargaining agreement, Ms. Sanchez.
At this time, Madam President, members of the board, I would like Mr. Byrd to highlight those agreement that we came to consensus that are new in the agreement at this time before I do the recommendation.
Okay.
Madam President Kurt, Superintendent Sanchez, members of the board, we met with the bargaining unit with negotiations first week in July. It was a very productive meeting, I felt like, with our bargaining team and theirs, as far as, you know, we tried to understand their needs, and they understood where we were at fiscally, you know, for this school year. So what I'd like to just do is highlight real quick where the changes, you know, verbiage was cleaned up, but the main things that have changed, if you would like, go to page 17 of the agreement, number 5.
You can highlight it, just read it out.
Oh, okay. Okay. So under number 5, under Article 9, paid and non-paid holidays, we added a section that the employees of the bargaining unit may use annual leave hours for any unpaid holidays and spring or Christmas breaks, and that security personnel at the schools may use their personal days in the same manner. Under Article 10, work schedules and overtime work, one of the discussions was that our maintenance and custodial departments liked using the 4-day-a-week schedule, and so we've added that in there, along with the request that the employee may make this for the summer, and depending on the site schedule, that will be approved by Mr. Benedict and the site principals.
Hold on, you said 10, right?
Article 10?
What page was that?
That would have been page 18 or 153 in the board packet.
All right.
So tell me how that's going to work for summer school, our K-3 plus.
Well, and that's part of, within that agreement, and I'll read it for you. I'll read the paragraph because I think we answer that. So during the summer break, employees may request a schedule that consists of 4 10.5-hour days, including a half-hour lunch break. An employee request may be approved by the district after consideration of site scheduling requirements and in coordination with the employee's direct supervisor and site manager. Cool. If multiple employees request the same schedule and there is need for overlap, schedules will be awarded by seniority. Employees working a 10-hour shift will be entitled to an additional 15-minute break during the day. So for the K-3 plus schools, in that case, we wouldn't be allowed to make that concession. They would continue to work to fit the needs of our students and our staff.
Right. Okay.
Which are 5 days.
Cool.
I would not like being a principal there if I didn't have a custodian.
In the board packet, page 155, Article 11, under job titles and classifications, there was another section, number 4, that was added. And we felt like this was something that we needed to, we were already doing, but we needed to continue to do, that the district will establish and provide mandatory safety and equipment training for each new custodial employee and new temporary custodial employee prior to sending them to the work site. And then this training will include, but not limited to, training on equipment, use of chemicals, and best practices in cleaning. And that during paid time, the district will provide, and bargaining unit and temporary employees must attend at least one safety and best practices training per year. The new employee and annual trainings described above will be provided by the district or trainers retained by the district. In addition, new custodial and temporary custodial employees may be assigned to shadow existing custodial employees as a supplemental method of training.
Do they have ongoing trainings throughout the year, or is it just a one-time shot?
Now, it'll be as...
Mr. Benedict.
Is he Mr. Benedict? Okay.
He's over here.
Because as we purchase new equipment, don't we have to train our custodians on how to use them? And
Yes, ma'am. Madam President, Superintendent Sanchez, members of the board. We do have ongoing training as far as new hires. We train them throughout the year, or if we identify deficiencies, or if we get new equipment. We normally try not to bring on a lot of new equipment in the middle of a cycle like that, but in the event that we did or we had to, we would have that kind of training.
Because I know past experience, brand new building, and it doesn't take long when you have over 500 students in a brand new building for it to look not brand new. And that's a big concern when we go into our schools. And I know, Mr. Edwards, you had some inquiries on cleanliness of the building. So it's of utmost importance to us to have those facilities maintained, maintenance-wise, to keep them looking new.
Agreed, and for us as well, so.
Great. Keep that training.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Benedict. Next change was in Article 15, Movement of Personnel. It was page 159 in your board packet. There was an addition, well, it was actually just kind of clean up to 2.5. The way it states now, vacancies shall be filled in a timely fashion. New temporary or substitute custodial employees will be eligible for selection to permanent positions as long as they are at union or employee expense in a current program to receive a GED or high school diploma and have received their GED or high school diploma prior to concluding their 2-year probationary period. The union or employee shall provide proof of enrollment to the district within 30 days of employee's hire date and proof of GED or high school diploma completion prior to the expiration of the 2-year probationary period. Lack of proof of enrollment or proof of completion will be considered failure to meet the job conditions, leading to discharge, termination, or non-renewal. One of the concessions that the district made in regards to looking at one of the standards that in the last few years that we required a high school diploma to be considered for employment at the custodial level. With this, what it's going to happen is, if you look at our job description, it says that high school diploma or GED preferred, and so that allows us this flexibility that the union will provide the GED program at their expense. Wow. So it'll be no cost to the district.
That's a win-win.
The next change is in Article 17, Wages and Allowances, which is page 164. Under number 9, so the district provides 5 uniforms, shirts and pants each year to the employees. The addition is toward the bottom where it says employees shall have flexibility in choosing the numbers and types of approved uniform apparel, shirts, pants, jackets, shoes, as long as the total does not exceed the amount allotted for uniforms in any given year, and as long as the basic uniform requirements are met, and that employees shall make their choices within deadlines for order placement. So basically, just to give the employee who's been here for 10 or 15 years that's just stockpiled, shirts and pants, now they have some variety that they can, as long as they stay within their allotment, that they can buy whatever's approved. 9.1 was also added, that bargaining unit employees be allowed to wear work-appropriate shirts or hats bearing the union logo on Fridays.
Okay. That was important. Anything else?
That was a request by them?
Yes, ma'am. Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay.
Under Section 13, which would be starts on page 165 and 166 under the increment schedule. They did ask for 2 increments to be added, the applicator's license at $365 and the head security guard at $1,000. Just as a little history to the negotiation, they did ask for a 6% raise across the board. We were able to talk them out of that. And we felt like, as a monetary concession, we felt like the applicator's license is very important. Mr. Benedict, I don't know if you want to speak to kind of the importance of the applicator's license.
So Madam President, Superintendent Sanchez, members of the board. What we've come to find out under New Mexico state statute is in order for us to pay a groundsman or a custodian wages to spray herbicide or pesticide like Roundup or something like that on a schoolyard, they have to have an applicator's license from the state, and that requires them to take a test, pass that test and show proficiency, and they also have to keep logbooks and do other things to comply with state statute. So as an incentive, we only have one member of our staff right now that has that applicator's license, and so that really limits our activities. And so as an incentive to other employees to get that not certification, but licensing through the state, we've we opted to approve that increment.
So does that cover the cost of them to be certified?
The one member of our staff that because the test is free and there's not really a class that's associated with it, so we just put him on professional leave, and so he was, so basically we compensated him to take the test. So it was at no cost to him.
And I can tell you guys that that test is pretty hard, and it's hard to keep up with. Being with the BLM too, we have a lot of guys that have to go through that also with spraying weeds, noxious weeds around the district. So.
And to keep the grounds clean, you just have to be able to do something more effective than with a whole.
Yeah, we need more than one person spraying weeds in the whole district.
Kidding.
Absolutely.
With weeds, so that was a good transition.
Good.
Thank you, Mr.
Yes,
Benedict.
thank you. What have we done in the past?
Nothing. What we were doing, and we had the NMDA inspector, he's the local authority having jurisdiction. We basically have the other guys working underneath. Jimmy Clemens, he's our grounds department head, he's our licensed individual, and so technically the other people that are spraying are working under his license, and that's kind of a gray area. It's not really written that way in the statute, but the authority having jurisdiction is allowing us to do that. So.
Thank you.
And then I'll speak to the head security guard. That will be for just the 2 high schools only, since they have multiple security officers at those buildings. And part of the requirements there that we're going to require that they coordinate security at different events. They are also in charge of inventory and different types of things at the high school level as far as ordering. And then they also get out communication to the other security guards throughout the district.
So are these increments by semester or year?
It's a yearly, yes, ma'am.
Good question. Anything else, Mr. Bird?
The only other change that was made, which we felt was very good, was the term of the agreement, the last page. Well, it's not the last page, sorry. Page 178, Article 26. The union would like to enter into a 4-year agreement, which we were very excited about. So
that was the recommendation.
It was a very good meeting that the team did, and as far as in support of the district in partnership with the CWA. Good job, team. Okay, with that, I recommend approval. So turn the page, sorry. I recommend approval of the CWA bargaining agreement.
Is there any discussion of the CWA bargaining agreement?
Did we get to wear union shirts on Fridays as a board?
Board shirts. You know, maybe we should ask for board shirts. Ms. Kane, do you sell?
It was a joke.
They're for sale.
Oh, we have them for sale?
We're getting some district shirts made by CRM, is that right? And so we will have some district, they're purple, but we're getting some district logo shirts so that we could wear when we go represent the district and at the school board association meetings or at spring budget workshop. We see teams come in, at the admin teams as well, and I think it's just a real nice team building. And so we will have some as soon as we get some more mock-ups.
One that kind of sticks out to me is Cloudcroft all the time. They're always in their green and they always look pretty sharp.
Or Artesian. So we'll be in purple. Okay, may I have a motion to approve the CWA bargaining agreement?
So moved.
Mr. Getty? Moved.
Second.
And Mr. Sanchez, second. Thank you. I'm turning the page. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. The motion carries to approve the CWA bargaining agreement. Thank you.
Yay.
ISD Preventive Maintenance Plan 2017-2018.
I recommend approval of the RISD Preventative Maintenance Plan for 2017-18.
Is there any discussion of this plan? Having heard none, I'll accept a motion to approve the plan.
So moved.
Mr. Sanchez made a motion,
Second.
and Mr. Getty second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. The plan carries for the RISD Preventative Maintenance Plan 2017-2018. Number 10, 2017-2018 school bus drivers. Ms. Sanchez.
I recommend approval of the 2017-18 school bus drivers.
And the plan, what's the plan?
Mr. Tweet?
Transportation, yes.
Madam President Kirk, Superintendent Sanchez, members of the board, you should have with you our transportation plan. It is a working document from year to year. What our bus contractors and our department work on during the year is any consolidation or moving of bus stops, routes, which wasn't applicable from last year to this year, and updating of any hazardous walking areas that students might have in getting to their bus stop. So there have not been any significant changes, and we have the morning bus schedules in here as well.
I've got one question, speaking of safety. Is there any chance that we're going to get a sidewalk from Del Norte to Goddard? Those kids walk in the street or ride their little bicycles in the street or whatever through that vacant area. Then, on top of that, cars jump the curb and park in that area where the kids are waiting to catch the bus. I'm just...
So, wait to catch the bus on the at Goddard?
On the Del Norte side, between Goddard and Del Norte. There's no sidewalk, there's nothing there.
So, the bus lane is actually on the north side of Del Norte.
But the kids wait in that vacant lot.
And they should not be waiting in that vacant lot. They should be taken out directly from the school to that. I did not know that because actually my daughter goes to Del Norte, and I am one of the guilty parties who parks in that dirt lot because I've seen kids when they're leaving to go home that they've walked through there, but I haven't. And I haven't seen any kids being picked up on a bus stop there. But I will definitely look into that. Do you happen to have any bus numbers that are going in there?
The buses aren't going in there. There's just no sidewalk for the kids to walk from Del Norte to Goddard. But also, I think it would prevent parents from jumping that and driving in there, being among the kids.
I got you.
Does that make sense?
It does. I don't know of any conversations to do that.
I thought the city was going to, had approved some funding to place sidewalks there.
No, it doesn't. That funding didn't go. The funding doesn't start from Goddard to Del Norte or Del Norte to Goddard. It starts farther up by Mesa.
Yeah, and they have completed that. There were sidewalks that were put on both sides of the street between Mesa and Nancy Lopez. And I'm not aware of any sidewalk initiative up between Goddard and Del Norte.
I just hate the fact that the kids are riding their bikes in the street and walking in the street with the traffic and the buses and everything else. Okay.
You can say there, Ms. Tweet. Madam President, excuse me. I'm sorry. Madam President, members of the board, we were talking about recommending approval for the 2017 2018 bus drivers?
Yes.
So we'll
Right.
do that, and then we'll move to the plan if you have any questions.
I agree,
Okay.
sorry.
That's
One
okay.
more question for you, Mr. Tweed. So on the numbers of bus drivers, what have you seen? Is the trend, are we still doing okay as far as bus drivers, or is there something?
You know, I think this was the first summer where they've actually increased the number of bus drivers. So both bus contractors, barring any type of procedures that current drivers might have to go through, will now, it looks like, not have to drive the buses. So they've made progress and been able to add a couple of bus drivers to each company.
Really awesome.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve the
Bus drivers.
R 2017-2018 school bus drivers?
So moved.
Mr. Getty made a motion to
Second.
move, and Mr. Sanchez made a second. Any discussion?
And I appreciate how you made this board member proof. You just did 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
big bold letters. I appreciate that.
You can actually thank your Hyde Alvarez in my office that does that. She also picked the pink.
You hide
Very
it.
nice.
You hide it, we like you hide it. Thank you. Okay, we'll go on. I'll accept, let's make a motion. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. The ayes have it, and the motion carries to approve the 2017-18 school bus drivers. Now for the transportation plan. Is there, Ms. Sanchez?
Madam President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the 2017-18 transportation plan.
Is there any discussion?
I jumped again. That's for the plan. My bad.
I didn't get pink.
Oh, I'm the fortunate one that got things.
I'm just saying, I'm a little upset by
I
that.
got white.
I was promised pink.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion to approve the 2017-18 transportation plan.
So moved.
Motion was made by Mr. Sanchez
Second.
and second by Mr. Getty. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it, the motion carries to approve the 2017-2018 transportation plan. Board norms. Okay, let's see. Board members, you have in front of you a copy of the board norms.
Yeah, so I got 2 copies.
That has, last year, our last board meeting, it was brought to the board, and it was, we were asked to take this to to have legal counsel review, and we have. So I have a couple of, or is there any discussion? Let's go with the discussion.
What did legal say?
The red and the blue are your legal representation comments.
So 2 different attorneys?
No, that's not true.
No.
Okay, but
No, the red is what the attorney did. The blue were the changes that we made, we added from the last meeting. So the red is the only attorney additions. That was weird to say additions. I'll just say additions.
At the very top, under requests, access to data and staff, you'll see a strike through. And as Mr. Getty pointed out, it's kind of redundant because although we always want everything to go through the superintendent, it's actually, the information is down under site visits and students present. So it's really not, it was just the redundancy, as Mr. Getty pointed out. My only concern about the policy, or actually it's not even a policy, it's our board norms, is let your spokesman speak for the board. It is my opinion, just my humble opinion, that we are 4 individual board members, and we should have the option to speak to any kind of media anybody representing the media as an individual board member. That is my belief. Now, if it's about policy or a concern and you don't feel comfortable, then you can always refer to either Ms. Sanchez, to our board spokesman. But I firmly believe that we shouldn't limit it to just one spokesperson, because we're a board of 5. Any comments?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. You know, we all should have our voice, but I think where the concern comes in sometimes, Mrs. Kirk, is, you know, sometimes people have different interpretations, and then it becomes a battle amongst board members. And I know that we're all professionals, and hopefully we would never go that route, but you know, I think that's where, you know, sometimes you have the spokesperson that, you know, when it comes to a situation, you know, everybody's going to have a little different interpretation, just to where it doesn't become a battle amongst the board in the press. I mean, that's where we can do that here as a board, you know, and the press can, we're more than welcome to come in and hear us deliberate, but it's just kind of a double-edged sword, you know. In a perfect scenario, I think it would be okay, but that's my only concern, is just in case the press starts asking different questions, and then, you know, it shows that the board may not be cohesive on what's going on.
I mean, for me, I think that this situation is one of those where as a board we want to speak as one, but if not everybody has been included in the conversation up to that point, because we can't meet every day as a group. So I think having a spokesperson is good when somebody might call me and have something that's not board related. Well, I can talk to them. But if somebody calls me and asks, well, what do you think about this? I can go, well, we have somebody who's going to talk about that, and let's let them do the talking.
Okay.
Just so that we all still sound as one voice that way, which is what we want to do.
Any thoughts, Mr. Edwards?
No, I'm keeping them to myself.
But I think,
Silence
you know,
is golden.
as a board, of course, we're all going to speak, and then from there, or I won't say you, because I haven't appointed that yet, but I would probably say the board president could then in tune, you know, speak on the board's issues. Like if Mr. Edwards had concerns, and then Mr. Getty, you know, she could in turn say, this is our problem, this is what we're working on, and these are 2 board members, and these are concerns, versus chatter back and forth if they don't agree on something. You know, you got to be that middle ground to keep us moving forward.
So we want to keep it in there.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And it's important for everybody to know that these are norms. This isn't a policy. This is something we do as a board, so that we can communicate together, and so that we can work together in a cohesive environment.
It's not to push anybody out on their concerns.
Yeah, we're not trying to be. This isn't about, if you don't do this, you're in big trouble. This is about, hey, if we do this right, we're gonna work better together.
Okay.
So we should probably, if we have any questions or concerns, advise them to speak to our board president.
No, that wasn't decided. Okay, so any other comments about the first reading of the board norms? I don't know that we have a first reading or a second reading. No, I don't think so either. It's just, a recommend approval.
Yep.
Okay. So, any more discussion, any further discussion? Okay, may I have a motion to approve the board norms?
So moved.
Mr. Getty made a motion.
Mr. Edwards, were you good on?
Sure.
Were you good?
Okay.
Second.
And Mr. Sanchez made a second. So, all those in favor of adopting the board norms, may I hear aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. We now have board norms.
So I will make the recommendation of the approval of the board norms. We're going to skip that over.
Well, I'm so sorry, Ms. Sanchez.
That's okay.
Okay, so Ms. Sanchez, you make the recommendation for approval.
Yes.
Okay, I left you out completely. I'm sorry, I apologize.
It's okay, you have the new card still for board president.
You get it for one meeting.
How old can I,
Next
how
meeting
long
we're
can
not
I
being
hold
nice.
that? Okay, policy 1100, terms of office and organization of the board, second reading.
I recommend approval of policy 1100, terms of office and organization of the board.
Any discussion? And here again, the policy has not been reviewed. It was taken to legal counsel and it hadn't been reviewed for some years. So the language in the first paragraph, second paragraph, third and fourth has been updated. The first reading was just the last paragraph, but as legal counsel got a hold of it to update it, then those were the changes made in red.
So one question I did have is on that second paragraph is each board member shall at first opportunity upon entering office take and subscribe to an oath of office as prescribed by the Constitution of the State of New Mexico. Should we maybe emphasize that would be at the first opportunity as the board can get together, because our old policy stated that it would be at the next regular board meeting. You know, then we would swear in the new individuals, and then we would elect the officers on the board. I just don't know if somebody would take that as, hey, I'm elected, I'm gonna run to the judge and get sworn in so I can start making decisions. I don't know if we need to keep it as to where it would be a group effort at the beginning. So we can technically do it March 1st if we need to versus wait till that board meeting. Does that make sense? I just don't want somebody rogue to say, I'm gonna go and then I got sworn in, so I'm gonna go start doing stuff. I'm just.
So you would like it to read at the first board meeting in March, or at the board meeting in March?
I wouldn't want to, because I know where we're trying to get is where we don't want to wait till the first scheduled if we don't have to. Right. So we can
at the next board meeting.
Well, many of it, all of us took the oath when we were up in Santa Fe. That was
right, but we did it on the first when we came back. Remember we had that special board meeting first, did it all. So I get it. I just think we need to make sure that we show that it's a group effort, that we do it on the.
So what's your recommendation?
I was trying to figure out the language.
Okay.
Well, but like this next, when we appoint somebody, they're not gonna. We're gonna have to probably swear them in at the board meeting anyway, but it's just gonna be them.
Instead of the first opportunity.
So I said like each board member shall at first opportunity. So that tells me like, hey, I just got elected. I'm gonna go get sworn in.
Yeah, I get it.
At the next board meeting?
For recognized RISD local school board meeting.
There you
Would
go.
tighten up that language.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go.
Ms. Kay,
So if
did
we
you
want to
get
schedule
that?
something on the first, then we can.
Okay.
At the next, I put local RISD board scheduled meeting.
And we can tighten that up.
Cool. Good point.
We replay that and get that language I said.
Instead of
Clear.
first opportunity.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that way it's at our regular scheduled
ISD
RISD
school board meeting.
Yes.
Right.
Tight language.
Okay.
Pretty clear.
Any other discussion? I'll entertain a motion to approve policy 1100, terms of office and organization of the board, second reading.
And that's with the changes, right?
With changes.
With changes.
Aren't you supposed to say something?
Yeah, I recommend its
Oh, I
approval.
didn't hear it.
Okay, so I recommend approval of policy 1100, terms of office and organization of the board with the approved changes.
May I have a motion to approve?
So
Second.
Getty and then Sanchez.
Okay, so Mr. Getty made the motion and Mr. Sanchez second. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Second reading with the approved language. Okay, that ends our regular board meeting, scheduled board meeting. now need to go into executive session to discuss the interim superintendent's evaluation. May I have a motion to end the regular board meeting and go into executive session for discussion of the interim superintendent's evaluation where no action will be taken? May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
It was moved by Mr. Edwards and second by Mr. Sanchez. Roll call, Ms. Kane.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Getty?
Yes.
Ms. Kerr?
Yes.
Or Mr. Sanchez?
Yes.
And it is now 8:49. Thank